Birmingham, Alabama, and Mobile, Alabama, and Montgomery, Alabama, 70% of the people who prepare foods institutionally, restaurants, hotels, and schools are black people. Most of them have chefs associations and others. If the tomatoes out of the Black Belt were sold to the Black Chefs Association, who makes the buy decision, you don't have to buy all the tomatoes from you. But what if you just start buying a few? Just a few. What if the tomatoes on the menu at the restaurants in Birmingham and Mobile said, these came from the Black Belt? It's just a few. And you have enough people who are in power, who are not high-powered politicians or rich guys, who can make a buy decision on tomatoes. You have enough people who run the dietary and the kitchen and the school systems in the Black Belt who can make decisions to buy locally produced foods. It's a matter of putting what you have to use. I appreciate you all tolerating me. I'm just getting a headache though what we can't do, okay? Thanks.
Some of the differences between conventional supply chains and then value chains. So a conventional supply chain starts with supply. It says, okay, so who's got the supply? What is it? How cheap is it? How can we get it? A value chain starts with, wait, who's going to buy this product that we have? Who's going to be the demand side? Who's going to want the investment? Who's going to want the agricultural products? Who's going to want the tourism? Who are those people and what do they want? And how can we work with the demand side to be sure that we're providing something that they want? You know, think about how many farmers have produced a lot of food and then find out that nobody wanted it, or found out that there was no way to get it to market, or it wasn't at a competitive price, or whatever. So really focusing on starting with demand. The supply chain focuses on a commodity. Lots of tomatoes, lots of peppers, lots of whatever. And the value chain focuses on what those values might be. So it was interesting in a school program that we were looking at one point, is it focus on replacing all the onions, or is it actually focusing on healthy meals for kids? Because that's the focusing on the values is around the healthy meals for kids. So maybe it's not just replacing all the onions in the school with locally grown onions, but actually thinking about how to have the values that we care about, health and exercise and everything that goes along with good food. Conventional supply chain is everyone is in it for themselves. You buy the lowest price possible and you sell the highest price possible because you want to make the most money in the middle. So the notion that everyone's in it for themselves. In a value chain, there's a real sense that we all have to work together to realize the goal of the value chain. So people are in it together. Conventional supply chain is you don't know how all the links fit together and you're in more that win-lose situation, where a value chain, it's interdependent. We can only reach the goal of getting healthy food into the schools if we're all working towards that goal. And so there's a sense of we're interdependent, we're all needed to have it happen because we're looking at the bigger system. And then in the conventional supply chain, the producers are interchangeable. If you can't provide the tomatoes at the price I want it, I'll go find it someplace else. And it just drives the price down. So it's really producers are interchangeable, and in a value chain, producers have they have rights and responsibilities. So I tell this story of this one restaurant in Philadelphia, in an urban area, where the owner of the restaurant was buying all of her pork for her restaurant locally, and it was free range, or as much as things walk around. And she needed more. And she went to this guy and said, so, I need more, will you give me more? He said, well, I can't. I can produce more, sure, but I don't have a truck that would accommodate how much you want. In a supply chain, she'd be like, great, if you can't meet my need, I'm going to go find somebody else. I'll go find someone else to be a producer for me. But instead she said, so what would it take? We're in this together. It's a win-win situation. What would it take for you to be able to provide me the amount that I need? And he said, well, a loan for a refrigerated truck is what it would take. She said, fine. I can give you a loan for a refrigerated truck. And he was able to pay it back in like 6 months because he knew he had a market, he knew that she would be buying it from him. And he upped his supply and he sold to her, and she linked him up also with some other buyers. And he was able to produce that and pay back the loan. The point is that he was a person, he had rights, he could talk about what it was that he needed, and he could ask for those things. Where it wasn't just, oh, you can't meet my demand, you can't produce enough, or you won't use the packaging I'm requiring, or well, then I'll go someplace else. There was a longer term relationship, an interdependent relationship between him and her in that. So those are some of the, when we think about value chains, this is the theoretical boring part. And as we work through the day and we hear different stories from people, we'll start to see how all these pieces fit together and how these principles on the this side in the green are honored in this work.